Welcome all of you, and now we are going to start few chapters like exception handling, assertion, and collection. So here I'm going to start my journey with exception, and here is the agenda related with that. And in this agenda, you will learn what is the exception, what is the exception handling, what are the hierarchy of exception, exception classification, what are the syntax, how to write, try, catch, finally keyword, how to handle exception, how to use multiple catches, sequencing catches, nesting try block. So here throws, throw, rethrow, finally block. What are the possible solution? What are the Java solution for finally? Here stack trace, how to use, what are user defined exception, assertion, how to enable assertion, how to disable assertion, when to use assertion, overriding an exception. So these all agenda you will see in this week. One by one I will show you. Here, after completion of this, you all should be able to handle exception. That is the main target, main objective of this exception handling. You should be able to use throw, throws, rethrow, how it will do. Also, that is the agenda. Now here I'm going to start with exception. So if anyone want to know, if anyone will ask what is exception in your program, you can say exception is abnormal condition of your program at runtime. So question is here, what exception comes due to programmer? What programmer did some mistake? What developer did some mistake? Answer is no. Exception comes because of the user of your program. You don't know what type of input user will give, and depends on the input your program will behave at runtime. So if program is behaving abnormally, you can say this program is showing exception. Like suppose I'm teaching here Java. So I have to teach Java, but suddenly if I start singing a song here, then you can say, oh, why this trainer is singing a song, this trainer is showing abnormal behavior. But I will show abnormal behavior because of your input. This time you are my user. And suppose on other side, if you are going to sing some song or you start dancing, so that time what I will do, I will teach Java or I will do some other things. So here always program user exception depends on the user. If user will give the wrong input, then program will show abnormal behavior. Like example, if somewhere you are going to divide some number with 0, your system will not be able to understand. If your number will be decimal number and if you divide with 0, system will understand, okay, it is infinite. But if your number is integer and you will divide with 0, then system will show abnormal behavior like a divide by 0 exception. In the same way, if you try to use a null reference, you are declaring reference but not assigning the object, so it will show null pointer exception. Like you want to open some file which not exist, so that one is means file not found exception. Like that you want to use some array and giving the size of array in negative array exception, means these all are fully dependent on the user. If user will give the wrong input, then exception will come, abnormal behavior will come. So hope you are able to understand definition of exception, why exception you are going to use in your program. So here to handle exception, why exception handling? Using the exception handling, at least you can know what type of wrong input user is going to pass. So you can return response to user. These all are the wrong input what you are giving. You should give input in this way. And here and your program, even some exception will come, so your program will terminate gracefully. That is also one very important part of this exception handling. This is one hierarchy of exception class available inside the Java. So there are on the top, there are the throwable class. This throwable class have two child. One is exception and second one is error. Exception class are having two child. One is the checked exception, second unchecked exception. However, inside the error runtime, many error can come related with your VM error, means virtual machine error, out of memory error. So many error can come. Error you will not be able to solve with program, but exception you can solve. Error if will come, then you have to restore your software. If your Java virtual machine will corrupt, you have to reinstall JVM. So hope you are able to understand this hierarchy. Here my focus is not error, my focus is only the exception part. There are two types of exception. One is the checked exception and second one is unchecked. For checked exception, compiler will enforce to handle the exception. However, unchecked exception will happen at runtime only. Question is here, what type of exception will come under the checked? If you are going to use any resource in your program, if you are going to use any resource in your program, like you want to use file, you want to use database, you want to use anything, remote machine. So for the resources, what are the exceptions? That will be checked exception. So Mr. James Gosling have made a policy, means for checked exception, for resources, you have to handle exception. It is fully depends on the user. If you want to use the database, if you want to use a file, then you have to handle the exception. That all will come under checked exception. If you will not handle, then compile time, it will not allow you to compile your program. It will show error for that particular exception at compile time. So you will say it is a checked exception. Same time, if you will go with unchecked exception. So unchecked exception means runtime, like you are using divide by zero, means all the arithmetic exception, null pointer exception. You are using here your different like a negative array size exception, means all the exception which will be in Java JVM control will come under the unchecked exception. And for all unchecked exception, there are one parent class called runtime exception. So all the unchecked exception are the child of runtime exception class. So here, this is only the hierarchy. My main motive was what? You should be able to understand the difference between checked exception and unchecked exception. So if I try to summarize this checked and unchecked exception, then one point keep in your mind. All the resource level exception will come under the checked exception. Resource can be anything. Resource means which are outside of your JVM boundary. That can be your database, that can be your operating system is multi-threading, that can be remote machine, that can be a file. So if resource level exception will be there, that all will come under the checked exception. But if it will be the Java level, means like a JVM level, that is arithmetic exception like divide by zero, negative array size, null pointer. So these all will come under unchecked. This is the reason for all unchecked. They have created a parent class called runtime. So hope this summary you are able to understand checked and unchecked. But here we are saying if you will not handle, question is here which exception you should handle. Answer is checked exception only. Unchecked exception not necessary to handle. System automatically will handle all the unchecked exception. But checked exception developer have to handle. Now question will come to your mind, how developer will handle checked exception or how developer will handle resource level exception. So this part you will see in next video. So hope up to this stage you are able to understand. Thank you.